Hello and welcome to this 26th episode of Britt Arnild's World here on YouTube in English. I'm very sorry I didn't make it with an English episode last week. I was in a hurry. It was Saturday and Terje was at home and we had some plans. So there was never time enough for it. But I know that some of you still enjoyed the footage, the small film snippets in the beginning and in the end. And I know that even some of you like to hear me speak Norwegian, and you can always see what I show you and so on. So I will try to do English episodes as often as possible, but some weeks you have to bear with me. But today here I am, and I'm here with something very special to show you. I have a yellow dress today. It's a favorite dress, but I'm wearing it in this episode for a very special purpose. As many of you know, we have a son in Stockholm, Torgeir, our oldest son. He works there. He has been there for almost 5 years, I think. And we love to go and visit him. It's 1 hour, 20 minutes with plane from Trondheim to Oslo. Often we can go directly, or we have to fly to Oslo and then continue to Stockholm from there. But we have not been in Stockholm in 2 years because of the pandemic, of course. We visited Torgeir the summer of 2019. We had planned to go there again in autumn, but something happened so we couldn't go. And we said, well, we will come in spring. It's much nicer to come at springtime, you know. And then in March 2020, the pandemic came, COVID-19, and we couldn't go. Torgeir was at home here in Norway, in Trondheim, at Christmas time. He had to go to a quarantine hotel, spent 10 days there in Oslo, outside the airport in Oslo, before he was allowed to come to Trondheim. And he stayed here for 2 weeks. First 1 week at home here with us and with the extended family. And then he left us to go and stay with friends and have fun with them for a week before going back to Stockholm. He couldn't see friends when he stayed here because there were some restrictions then about how many people you could see during a week and so on. Again, because of the pandemic. So, and my husband Terje and I, we have had plans for a long time now to go to Stockholm in September next month, but still the situation, the pandemic situation is quite unsure, so we decide not to go. Maybe later in the autumn, maybe not until spring, we will see. But 2 years ago, in the summer of 2019, when we went to see Torgeir, we had such a lovely time, as we always have when we are there. It was in the middle of the summer, it was warm, it was sunny, and we walked and walked and walked and saw so many wonderful things. And as we always do when we are there, Terje and I stayed in an Airbnb apartment because Torgeir's place is so small we can't sleep there. And in the windowsill there was one of these plants you can see back there. Unfortunately, I don't know the English name of it. The Swedish name is palette leaf. The Norwegian name is praktspragle. And the Latin name I should have known, of course. Maybe you already know the English name. If you know, you can write me a comment. I would love to know the English name. And in the windowsill, there was a plant of this. And while we stayed in the apartment, in the Airbnb apartment, I watered the plants. And I stole one little, kind of like this, of the plant. It's an old tradition, an old saying, that if you want cuttings from a plant, the best thing is to steal them. Then they grow much better. And of course, plants don't mind to lose cuttings like this. It only makes them, most plants at least, it only makes them grow more, much more growing, more fresh. So, and I started to make plants from my first cutting, and since then I have made so many plants. I have 6 cuttings in this jar for the moment. 3 of them will be for a new plant for myself. 3 of them will be for a plant for my daughter Ingrid, our oldest daughter. It's her birthday today, actually. She's 32 today. So she has already gotten 1 plant, but I will make her another one. And I came home and this plant started to grow and I loved it so much. And I was looking at these beautiful leaves with the pink and the purple. And I started to make a pattern. I will show you. I have it here in my creative workbook. So here is what I started to do. I think it was in July or August or something. And then in September, I had come so far. I had started to knit some samplers. So I made several more patterns. And also for the overall design of the jacket. Because I decided to make myself a cardigan. And finally, in the end, I had the pattern I wanted to use. And I started to knit the cardigan. And I called it Sun in Stockholm because I had got the inspiration there and the weather had been so sunny while we were there. You have already seen part of it in the filming in the beginning of this episode. And here is the finished product. I'm not wearing it because it will be too hot. It's for outdoor use. And you see on the sleeves and also at the bottom, I have this beautiful leaves. And I have a little green, which I have folded in. On both sleeves, I have done this. And also at the bottom of the jacket. And I have 4 different greens, one here, and different ones of each of the sleeves to fold in, just to make it a little more interesting. And then I have been working on this jacket or cardigan for, it's almost a coat actually. I've been working on it for 2 years. I finished it just the other day. And I was wondering for a long time if I also should have these leaves up here, but I decided to go for these stripes instead, using these 2 colors from the leaves in the stripes together with yellow. And then I was again wondering, shall I have the leaves up here in the color? But I decided to go for yellow only. It would be too busy elsewhere. And I went for this bright pink, which is this pink of course, inside here, which makes it kind of bright and happy, I think. I used it for the first time yesterday and I was lucky. I was able to use it actually 3 times. In the morning, I went out very early in the morning. I went to look after our little granddaughter, little Vida, for a couple of hours. So I wore this when I went there. Then after lunch, Terje and I went out to do some shopping. I wore my coat, knitted coat. And then again in the evening, I had my reading group. Well, I went to my reading group with this coat, this jacket. What will you call it? I have the Norwegian name. I have called it kofte, which is maybe not quite right either because it's not a traditional kofte, or I could call it a jakke in Norwegian. But I'm so happy with it. And this is the second coat, jakke, kofte, in this pattern I have knitted over the last 3 years. And I already have plans for a third one. I'm going downtown hopefully tomorrow to buy some green yarn. It's Finull from Rauma Finull. And tomorrow I plan to buy some green. and start a new kofte in the pattern which I showed you in the Norwegian episode actually. So you have to go back there to see it, or you also saw some of it in the start film here of this green wrist warmers. I will use that pattern to make another kofte. And then in a later episode I will talk more about this green pattern, which I told about in Norwegian in the previous episode. I am so in love with knitting for the moment, and I have actually started new projects every day the last week. I'm not going to show you all of them. It would be too boring because, well, some of them have had some progress. Some of them are in the very, very tiny little beginning. But there is one shawl I want to show you, which I also showed in the last week's episode, the Norwegian one. And I have it in this beautiful knitting bag. This is an old embroidery actually. Of course I don't know the name of the bird in English. Vipe is the Norwegian name. And it's a friend of mine, Janne, from the podcast Countryside Knitting, who has made the bag from this old embroidery. So I bought it from Janne. And in it I have a shawl I am knitting on. It's very simple. I just start in one end with 3, 4, 5 stitches. I knit plain knitting back and forth. And I decrease every second stitch, and I increase every second row, and I increase every row, which means that every second row you get one more stitch. So the shawl is growing that way. So the growth will come downwards. So it will be a very long shawl, but will also grow to go further to make it bigger, deeper. And I use yarn from my collection here. I use some lammull, lamb's wool from Rauma, some leftover from a cardigan I knitted, you have seen it, with the double thread of these two. This is the Danish Filcolana, Tilia. And then I have this, which is from Uruguay, Manis del Uruguay, and it's Manos del Uruguay, and it's the Manos lace, which is baby alpaca, silk and cashmere. It's so soft and so beautiful, and I really love the way these different gray shades blend together. I bought it 2 years ago up north in a small yarn shop, and it has been waiting. I haven't quite known what to use it for. But now it goes into this shawl. And what I do is I knit these two threads together, and then this purple lamb's wool goes alone. And then I make some stripes. I haven't planned in advance. I just knit, and since this gray yarn has this different blendings of gray, the stripes are not too pointed out actually. They kind of blend together in a very beautiful way, I think. This is the back side. I love it. So this is the main thing I'm working on for the moment. And as I already told you, I have started so many new projects, and I still have a lot of ideas to continue to work on. Before finishing, well, in the end you will see a film footage from a few of my latest hikes. I love to hike in spring and in autumn, especially, also in summer and sometimes in winter. You will see a couple of short footages from Trondheim, and also a little from my garden. But before that, and before me saying goodbye, I will show you a little gem of a book I have. It's the Rowan's Storybook of Little Knits by Mary Wallin. It is a storybook, and it has not paintings but photos. and together with the story you get patterns for all the different outfits which are used in the book and in the stories. Here you can see them all. And the last part of the book has patterns for all the outfits. Most of the patterns are by Mary Wallin, but there are also a few others, I think. And this book is, I think it's from 2007, or was it 17? I know I said 7 in the Norwegian episode, but I'm wondering. 2007, yes. So maybe some of the clothes are a bit out of date, but still I love them. And I love the beautiful children who wears the outfits. And well, the book is such a wonderful book. I really recommend it. I have bought it and I get nothing for recommending it, of course. And I will not show you the patterns, because if you want to knit some of the things, you have to buy the book to get to the patterns. But there are so many sweet pictures in here, so many sweet outfits. And also the story, the tale is so charming. So I have been enjoying this book quite a lot recently. I have not knitted anything from it. And probably I will not use any of the patterns directly. But what I do when I have books like this, I have quite many of them. I especially bought a lot of books like this when my 2 girls were young, and also when the boys were children. And I used them as inspiration. I never used the pattern directly, but I looked at the pictures and I thought, oh, I want to make something like that, and I make my own things. So, Little Knits. The Rowan Storybook of Little Knits. A charming story and collection of 25 hand-knit designs for children aged 3 to 10 by Mary Wallin. Okay, I'm very glad I made it to an English episode today. Hopefully I will be back next week, and hopefully then with both a Norwegian one and an English one. Until then, bye!